We're your hosts,
Aaron Bacus
and Jason Kindler.
We like to sit down with our guests to hear their journey, their challenges, and how they impact the local community.
So grab a seat, tune in, and let's get inspired by Jacksonville's everyday workforce.
Welcome to Hometown Jax.
Welcome to Hometown Jax. I'm Jason Kindler, and I'm here today with Suzanne Hasz with Hudson Trailer Company.
That's right.
So Hudson Trailer Company, I'll kind of get into that, but we like to, on Hometown Jax, we like to highlight people that live in Jacksonville, are part of our community, and man, you have an interesting story. We talked a little bit, but I was researching and everything like that. What is Hudson Trailer Company?
Well, first of all, thank you. You've had amazing guests here, so I'm honored to be a part of this, so I thank you for that. Hudson Trailer Company is the culmination of a 3 a.m. wake up in the middle of the night, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. So
I've had those too before, so yeah, I get it.
Well, I feel I've had a lot of them. This one actually kind of works, so I feel blessed there. But I had a property in upstate New York, and I was living there then, and I've always been a serial entrepreneur, but I was sort of pausing. I had sold my last business and was under extreme renovation at my house.
Got it.
And woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, oh, I'm going to get a vintage trailer and put it like right on the corner of my property. Because I had a beautiful like 3-acre, lawn there. And then I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I found a trailer. Oh, it was the most disgusting trailer you've ever seen.
What were you going to do with the trailer? Like, what were you doing with just on the lawn for decoration?
For events, yeah. To just cut a hole in the side of it, make it a bar. Yeah. So found like a $500 trailer on then Craigslist and went up to grab it, completely unprepared. Hadn't towed anything really ever before that. Hitched it up, and then brought it home on the side roads. The people I bought it from used it as a camping outpost, and they cut a hole in the back and kind of went in and out. So it was, it needed a lot of work, but it sat there for a long time because I had this idea, but I was really wildly unprepared how to execute it. So it sat there for about a year, and then friends would come over and say, "Oh, what is that?" I'm like, "Ignore that. Just ignore it. It's a project.
It's a project."
Yeah. And then they would say, I'd say, "I'm going to turn it into a bar." And oh my gosh, I'll rent that from you. And then that kind of turned into me being a little more passionate about it. And my then, fiance had said to me after I said, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. He said, "You're just making excuses." And that's the wrong thing to say to me.
Right.
And then I found a mentor, made my first one. That led to 12, and then here I am.
How many years ago was that? When was that?
That was about a decade ago.
A decade ago.
Yeah, that was a decade ago.
Wow. So how much? So you've done? You said 12, or that turned into 12, and then how many have you done? How many have you done so far?
Well, that quickly turned into me building 12 to rent out. We've done hundreds. We've built hundreds of mobile businesses. But by the time I got to 12, it took me to 12 to understand I don't like going to people's weddings and being in the bar. I like building things.
I gotcha.
So
on your website, you've got you've got the smaller versions, and then I've seen like the big Airstreams and stuff like that. Like is it when you're doing a project, is it mostly a company that comes to you that sees you, or how are you getting your business?
Well, we started out doing entrepreneurs mostly. People would see what I built and would call me up and say, "I saw your work on Pinterest. Can you build me that?"
Oh, wow.
And that's how I forayed into the build side. So we get a lot of entrepreneurs, and so we have specific models for entrepreneurs for coffee or bar or retail, but we also do a lot of corporate work. So those types of jobs are really when a corporation comes to us and says, "Hey, we need a wow factor, or we want to add to our F&B profile, like our food and beverage profile, without a brick and mortar or without building something."
Yep. Think about Riverside Arts Market would be one of the things that so like when you walk up and I'm like, I'm always attracted to go get coffee from the person that has the mobile business.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, it's such a cool, you know, feel and things like that. So it's really a cool business.
It is. And I really feel that COVID changed things. You know, mobile businesses took such a different avenue after that, because if you had a mobile business during all those shutdowns, you could still continue your business. And then I think within this, you know, our focus on social media and Instagrammable moments and experiences, people want to go get out and see something cool and have a moment outside their house, you know, or in a park or something. And it's really opened up an avenue for entrepreneurs to just launch their dreams.
That's awesome. So I know with like, you know, food trucks and things like that, like the popularity, did that help your business as well? You know, with mobile business?
So I would say not really, because I started on the event side, so focusing on bars, photo booths, and then coffee. And it's still really, you know, as much as we've gone into food a lot and done some specialty food trucks, we sort of do a whole gamut, and food has existed alongside of us. But the element I think that's cool that I love to do is build something unexpected. Mm-hmm. It's like not necessarily the food truck that you would see, but, you know, really represent the brand with a surprise element in a mobile business.
So I've seen some of the photos online as well, is that, you know, what a cool concept that you have at a wedding venue. And instead of, you know, your stuffy bar that's usually in a, you know, clubhouse and things, you've put the trailer right in the middle there. And I mean, it's just awesome.
Thank you.
So, being a serial entrepreneur, and same thing with myself, every day seems like there's something different. What's the biggest surprise that you've had in your business, good or bad?
Oh, right. We're always on the roller coaster of surprises, I think, being an entrepreneur. I think the biggest surprise is when I set on this path, I really didn't realize how common it is for so many people to have this like hidden dream where it's like, oh, this is what I do, but I've always wanted to have a coffee shop or this thing. So I think that's fun. And the other surprise that I just hold dear to my heart is my staff. You know, a lot of our staff came from New York.
Gotcha.
To follow the dream, to believe in the dream, and still with us.
That's awesome.
And it's like that's pretty cool to be able to lead that in that way.
That's pretty cool. How many staff do you have?
We vary, but we're really about 10.
Got it.
You know, and we're a small business, so we like to keep it small, and also we're specialty, so we're not trying to just, you know, churn out 50 million widgets.
It's very your business is very specialized, but it's also something with the finished product. Like it's just an amazing concept, and it's also so like from the branding side, it's so specialized to the brand. So like when you got to have a lot of pride when you get done with the project. Like, are you just like, whoa? Yeah,
I think. So my production manager and I always talk about this when we're like, we did that build was that how many? Oh my gosh, that was 6 months ago, because it's almost like we're at a different speed and we don't get to stand back a lot. Sure. It's like, okay, this person needs this soon. We got to get on this project. So to stand back and reflect, some of the things I stand back and think, how did we manage that? How did we get that done in that time with such a good result? And then on the flip side, the other time, you always have to reflect on some of the challenges you've had and how to improve. But I feel so blessed to be in an industry where you just get to be so innovative and you get to create. Who gets to create their own industry?
Not many people.
Yeah, no, I feel so blessed, and knock on wood, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. So you mentioned your came from upstate New York. Why Jacksonville?
So this is a little bit of a funny story. I had a friend who moved down to Jacksonville about 15 years ago, and so I came down to visit her, and there's just something that felt right about the city. So I I came down a few times with my kids, and I wanted to buy, a little house and just have like an extra, like a
Sure.
rental property or whatever. And my production manager and I were talking about expanding production. We needed to get out of New York. We had looked at so many places in New York, it didn't work. So we went to look along, we went west, along sort of the line of where we had our supplies, followed our supply line a little bit. We looked at Asheville, we looked at Knoxville, and it was such a depressing trip on the way back that it was just like, none of these places work. This is not going to work. And I literally just turned to him and I said, well, there's always Jacksonville.
Oh, really?
And that stuck in him. And because we didn't think south. Yeah. And after that, then that sort of, he kept sending some listings or mentioning it. And then everything came to be at the place we're at. And we have a great landlord and we love being in Springfield. And so then it was just like, all right, within 4 or 5 months of that point of looking at other places, we had secured the place. Wow. Like, that's it.
That's awesome. And how long ago was that?
That would be 4 years ago.
4 years.
Almost 4 years ago, I think. I'm so bad with time. Sorry, but yeah.
So Springfield has, last time I was there, it's so eclectic. It's so up and coming. They've done an amazing job with Springfield. You love Springfield?
Yeah. And have you been to the public gardens? They have like those, they built like an organic garden.
I have not.
It's really cool. But there's a lot of up and coming businesses there, and it's expanding. And I think every part of Jacksonville has like a little cool thing.
Yeah.
And Springfield is super eclectic, and the houses there are stunning.
Yeah.
And even the ones that are older that they're redoing are just, they're so awesome. Beautiful. Yeah.
Jacksonville is so diverse, and like you can be on the country in some places, a little bit country feel. You could be in Springfield, you could be downtown, you could be at the beach. There's so many, different things to do. So very cool. Are a lot of your builds, are they local or more national?
They are more national.
Yeah.
So we've built, in almost every state. I'm trying to think. We used to keep a map, but I got behind on the map. But we built for Hawaii and
you get so busy.
And, yeah. And some clients, they are local, but some clients never even seen in person. They just build with us, and we go through everything and videos, and of course, and then they get it.
That's really cool. So, anything that sticks out to you that was like, do you have a favorite build that you've done?
There is a build that went to the Aventura Mall.
Okay.
It is for a macaron company, and La Durée, they're a French company, and they came to us, and this was in my my era of I want to just do spectacular things and innovate. Since then, I've calmed down a little bit. But we built an Italian 3-wheeled truck, and the person stands in the back of it and has a refrigerated case, and there's a sink in there in this box. The back of the truck's only, 5x5 at the most. And the entire roof lifts up and then closes down, and then you can drive away.
That's
and
crazy.
that when I said
That's
that
so cool.
to the team, they probably looked at me like I was insane. But Dave is in charge of production. He's amazing, and
That's
he
awesome.
was able to do it. So it's like that was the pinnacle of sort of our.
That was the one that
invention.
You didn't think you maybe could get done, but you knew you can get it done. But you had to convince your team, right?
Well, yeah. I think if anybody can do it, might as well be me.
Yeah. One thing that stuck out to me is you have a huge Instagram following. So I don't know how involved was that to build, or did it just kind of happen organically? I mean, you have like 106,000 followers, which is a lot.
So I think it was organic to some degree. But I have an amazing person who posts our work on Pinterest, and she works tirelessly. Yeah. And that's where most people have gone to see, and then they gravitate. And I think it harkens back to me saying that a lot of people have these dreams within them, and they're thinking, oh, it's not doable, or that's a pipe dream. So, our followers probably stem from that too, that, oh, wow, this is something I want to do someday, and have this in my life, and kind of get out of the rat race.
So do you think that there's an increasing demand for a mobile business because of the cost? You don't have to have brick and mortar. Does that play into it at all?
Definitely. I think, it takes significantly less for a mobile business as far as cost wise, space wise, build out. We can build a trailer in 12 weeks. So I think with that regard, and then also you just have the mobility of it. And I always, when clients call me and say, oh, I'm thinking about opening a brick and mortar, but I'm thinking about mobile, I say the mobile business, that is your test market, because you can move. You know, when you choose a brick and mortar, you better have done your homework on the location and the clientele and how you're reaching them. So I think those things really lend people to want to sort of do an entry level, market vehicle. And it works, because then you can also, you move, you take it with you. Yeah. You always have your business.
That's cool. So, and I'm kind of going down a little bit of a hole right here, just business wise, is that, so the trailer, if somebody is there financing for the trailer? Okay.
Yeah, there's financing on the website. We work with a great company, Ascentium. They're a small company too, so they get it. But it's pretty easy to do as far as going that way. But I think, we have a lot of clients who plan this years out. We're constant. We just did a build for a person who said, oh my gosh, I've been following you for years, and I finally I saved up. That's cool. And it is, because it's like, it's this person's life savings, and they're betting on themselves, and they're betting on us to follow through with their vision.
That's got to be rewarding.
It is.
It is. It has to be rewarding from the standpoint that you're the one that's putting their dreams together.
Yeah, it's just a lot of pressure too.
Well, yeah,
so
that too.
You have to, I think that's why at the beginning I taught entrepreneurial classes, just because having gone through that myself, I thought there are so many, moments where you're like, shoot, I backed into my own trailer. What am I going to do now? And so I think that was part of my passion at the beginning, was sitting down and teaching these classes, because the one thing that, you need to be successful is grit. Like, you have to, we've had clients who have ripped their siding off, or on the way to an event, and, calling, what do I do? Well, your trailer's black, get some duct tape and go to the wedding, put some garland on there. And, there's accidents always happen. So
that's some grit.
Yeah. Kudos to those guys. They have grit, and they're still plugging away. So it's important.
So as far as businesses go, without naming names, is there any that kind of stand out that you launched and now they've done successful? Have they purchased multiple? Anything that stands out?
I think, well, we have some corporations who've created some cool things. So, but I think, when I look back historically, I think of just like some of the first entrepreneurs we've built for. They have multiples, and they're still at it, and they're building their fleet, and they're one client we have in Northern California, their trailer looks as brand new as when they took it years ago, and it's just the pride that they take into that, and it's giving them another life, besides another income to build a life, rather.
What kind of what kind of competition is there in your industry?
Well, I think there's obviously, Jacksonville's the food truck capital of, who knew when I moved down here I was sort of going into the lion's den. But
see, I would have thought there would be more similarities, but you're saying it's competition on the food truck.
Well, so. We're completely different. We don't do cargo trailers. We focus on vintage and vintage step vans and the vintage look more. But so I think in that respect, is it really competition? No, but I think there's other builders in the U.S. who are trying to do things that are innovative like us.
Yeah.
But by and large, there's not a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
I think the focus on is really renovating more cargo trailers or things like that.
Yeah.
So
how do you find, let's say somebody comes to you with an idea. How do you find an old vintage, truck or an Airstream, or how do you find it?
So I am blessed because Dave does that work. He'll find he'll scour through Marketplace and all these things. And he also has relationships to go back to. There's things like Airstream forums. So generally we try to find it for the client because we've gotten some things that people pull up and, hey, I got this for $100. And, it kind of looks like it is, but because of the safety elements of it, the frame and the axle have to be rated at a certain amount, things like that. That's why we started building. We build them to look vintage, but they're brand new.
Yeah.
So I think, thankfully, that's not on my plate. I do not want to find a vintage step down. As much as I did have a curated collection of vintage trailers on my property in New York, I only have one left.
Yeah.
And Dave loves to do that, hopefully.
So yeah. And so you're the creative. Dave finds the machinery.
Yeah, he's I am the dreamer, and he is the person who puts things into action and kind of pulls me down a little bit. But I think we work well together because he's also a creative person, and I'm also a logical doer. So it's pretty well rounded.
That's
I
good.
think.
You need to have that in business.
Yeah.
So that's important. Long-term relationships with your clientele, is that something that they get one trailer? Are they coming back for more? Is it something that you have repeat clients quite a bit?
So I think it really depends on the client. We have clients who buy multiples. I think the long-term relationship is we're always trying to make sure that we're checking on people. But I think by and large, the bulk of our starting clients were the solo entrepreneur. So having more than one unit is kind of hard to manage when it's you're creating your own product and putting it in there. So we've had a mix of both, but I think that it takes also quite a few years to get one under your belt. Mm-hmm. I was a crazy person to build 12 and drop them at all these things. I don't expect my clients to be like that.
That's your entrepreneur. Okay, right? how can I make money off of it, right?
Right. And how can I be most efficient?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get up at 4 a.m. and drop this one and this one and this one. But I wouldn't want to put that pressure on any other person. Yeah. So we always love to have our clients come back, and we always love to feature them, on our Instagram and try to push their dream, because without their dream, we're not building dreams. So that's sort of there.
That's such a cool, I guess, a company mission, right? I mean, kind of like it's not just about the product. There's so much more behind it, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think it really was. I look back upon thinking about this podcast. I was thinking about my first client. My first build was a person from Northern California, and she's wildly successful now. She's doing spectacular and has, her product in airports and things like that. She flew to New York without ever having met me. She came and looked at this horse trailer that was a used horse trailer. I'll just say that. And she was excited about it. We laid it out. We had lunch. She flew home. Oh. And that was, the first build client that I had. Yeah.
What is there any type of industry that you see within the next 5-10 years, like that, any industry that you could see your business really making a difference in?
So, well, see, now then I'm giving my secrets away. But
don't give your secrets away now.
No, I think, if I look at the landscape and where things are going, I think people are spreading out. People are going to events out, retreats, things like that. So we always look at sort of foraying into the housing or, element, more so. We've done some livables, but I think just that's going to grow in, the United States soon. I think people are going to be wanting, instead of going to the hotels, they're going to be going out. And also we see that trend with large hotel chains buying smaller retreats right now. So that's always something to watch, and that would be fun to do. I would love to do, a trailer park of Airbnbs.
That's really cool. So the cost of housing, as you know, I own a mortgage company. So, the cost of housing is not going down.
No,
and it's
not.
become, just across the country, it's just become, more and more expensive. So, do you ever think like it sounds like there's some affordability things that could be accomplished with some of the custom trailers?
I do. And I also think, the supply and the demand, right? Is the supply of houses that are here now, is that meeting the demand of the young people now?
Yeah.
Do they really want that size and, the location and the flexibility? So I do think that the concept of having these trailer parks, for lack of a better term, where you can almost jump, there's one in Seattle. All right, I'll just have my belongings shipped there. I'll live in the same thing. There's one of that, and I'll go remote work in Seattle, and then I'll jump down to, Phoenix or whatever, and having these places where you can have these houses, you can either own or rent or whatever, and in a really well-rounded community where it feels like a community. Maybe you have a garden and a workspace. That's a really forward-thinking concept, but it doesn't seem unreasonable.
No.
It seems like it would fulfill a need.
No, they've the tiny houses exploded. Just think concepts that somebody comes up with and you just never know.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So let's kind of go through, if somebody wants to find you, right? Somebody wants to find your company. How do they get a hold of you?
You can just look on the web, Hudson Trailer Company. We have a website. People can stop downtown and see our shop if they want to see something. There's a link to call or an email on the website too. Really, the website's the best funneling thing, because then you can see the work and see what might be a good fit.
Yeah, when I went on the website, I was like, wow, this is way different than I expected, and way nicer. And I always wondered where you go into some place, you see this amazing vintage coffee trailer. I'm like, who built that?
Well, thank you.
So
I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, it's awesome. Anything else you want to kind of cover?
I can't think of anything other than the one question was, if you could have a mobile business, what would yours be?
Mine would be, I'm a shoe guy.
Okay.
Okay, so I like sneakers. I'm a big, ever since I was a kid. So what I would do is I would sell sneakers out of my trailer.
Nice. I love that idea. I love the idea of going to like Riverside and go to the vintage sneaker or used sneakers and look and see what
you may have. You may have something here. That's very cool. So Suzanne, I appreciate you coming in. That's such a cool concept and such a cool business that you have, that I don't think I'm ever going to have somebody on the podcast again that's going to have your type of business. So it's so cool.
Well, that's a lovely compliment. I'm appreciative of being here. I still feel new in Jacksonville, even though, I've been here for a little bit. So I appreciate.
Well, we appreciate you having your business in Jacksonville. It's such a cool business, and I love our city. I love everything that it stands for, and it's awesome. So
I agree. I agree.
So thanks again. Thanks for coming in.
The Hometown Jax podcast is recorded and produced by First Coast Mortgage Funding, located in the heart of Jacksonville. Do you want to be our next guest? Visit our website at hometownjaxpodcast.com. We can't wait to hear your story.